We've spent decades obsessing over what to eat, counting calories, weighing portions, calculating macronutrient ratios. But there's been this fascinating shift in nutrition science that's fundamentally changing how we think about food. It turns out that when you eat might matter just as much as what you eat. Welcome to Chrononutrition, the science of meal and nutrient timing, and it's revealing some pretty remarkable things about how our bodies process the same foods differently depending on the time of day. Your body runs on internal clocks, not just one master clock, but clocks in virtually every cell and organ system, all synchronized to a roughly 24-hour cycle. These circadian rhythms aren't just controlling when you feel sleepy. They're orchestrating insulin sensitivity, hormone production, digestive enzyme activity, and metabolic processes throughout the day. Here's the critical insight. Your insulin sensitivity, your body's ability to handle carbohydrates efficiently, is highest in the morning and progressively declines as the day goes on. This means that bowl of pasta hits your system very differently at breakfast versus late at night. The research on this is compelling. When people eat the exact same meal at different times of day, their blood sugar and insulin responses vary significantly. A carbohydrate-rich breakfast produces a smaller glucose spike and better insulin response than the identical meal eaten at dinner. This isn't about willpower or metabolism being faster in the morning in some vague sense. It's about specific, measurable differences in how your cellular machinery processes nutrients based on circadian timing. So what does this mean practically? It suggests front-loading your carbohydrate intake earlier in the day when your body is better equipped to handle it. Breakfast and lunch become your primary carbohydrate meals. This doesn't mean avoiding carbs at dinner entirely, but it does mean reconsidering that giant plate of pasta at 9 p.m. Your body is simply not in optimal carbohydrate processing mode at that hour. Protein timing reveals a different pattern. Research on muscle protein synthesis shows that distributing protein relatively evenly across the day, roughly 25 to 30 grams per meal, optimizes muscle building and maintenance better than consuming the same total amount concentrated in 1 or 2 large doses. Your muscles can only use so much protein at once for synthesis. Beyond that threshold, additional protein in a single meal gets used for energy or other purposes rather than building muscle tissue. This has implications particularly for older adults trying to prevent sarcopenia, the age-related muscle loss that contributes to frailty. Exercise nutrition timing is where this gets even more specific. Pre-workout carbohydrates provide readily available energy. For endurance exercise lasting more than 90 minutes, consuming carbohydrates during the activity maintains blood glucose and delays fatigue. Post-workout, there's a window, roughly 2 hours, where your muscles are particularly receptive to protein for repair and carbohydrates for glycogen replenishment. This isn't an absolute all-or-nothing window the way some fitness culture portrays it, but there is a genuine advantage to relatively prompt post-exercise nutrition. Here's a practical daily framework. Start with a high-protein breakfast. This supports satiety throughout the morning and provides that distributed protein dose for muscle synthesis. A balanced lunch maintains energy and productivity. Then comes the controversial part, a lighter, earlier dinner. Finishing your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed appears to support better sleep quality and metabolic health. Late-night eating, particularly large meals, disrupts circadian rhythms and the overnight metabolic processes that are supposed to occur during fasting periods. Intermittent fasting fits into this framework, particularly time-restricted eating where you consume all your food within an 8 to 12-hour window, ideally earlier in the day rather than later. The benefits appear to extend beyond simple calorie restriction. You're aligning your eating pattern with your circadian biology, potentially triggering autophagy, the cellular cleanup process, and various metabolic improvements. But here's what's important. This needs to be personalized based on your lifestyle, preferences, and how you actually feel. Supplement timing matters too, though it's often overlooked. Fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K need to be taken with meals containing fat for proper absorption. Calcium and iron compete for absorption, so they should be separated if you're supplementing both. Magnesium before bed can support sleep quality for many people, given its role in muscle relaxation and neurotransmitter regulation. Now, let's acknowledge the major challenge: shift workers. Night shift work fundamentally disrupts circadian rhythms, and the metabolic consequences are well documented in research. Higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease among chronic night shift workers aren't coincidental. Strategic meal timing might mitigate some of this harm, but honestly, this is an active research area with limited practical guidance currently available. We know the problem exists, we're still figuring out the solutions. The overarching principle here is that your body isn't a simple machine that processes food the same way around the clock. It's a complex biological system with rhythms and cycles that have evolved over millions of years. Morning sunlight, nighttime darkness, and the timing of food intake all provide signals that synchronize these rhythms. When you eat in alignment with these patterns, you're working with your biology. When you're eating large meals late at night or consuming carbohydrates when your insulin sensitivity is at its lowest, you're working against it. This doesn't mean you can never have dessert after dinner or that eating at the wrong time will destroy your health. But chronic patterns of eating that ignore circadian biology may be contributing to metabolic dysfunction in ways we're only beginning to understand. The same food, different times, different effects. That's the essence of chrononutrition, and it's changing the conversation about nutrition in some pretty fundamental ways.